Well, good morning, and thank you so much for coming to our session. Right, isn't it? Everyone's a bit hungover this morning, right? Can we just agree that maybe we should have put your sunglasses on?
Yeah, I think I will.
So we're going to have a little masterclass this morning on how to avoid the really unfunny situation of really arsing up a show that's meant to have everyone in stitches, but the only laugh that gets raised is when you see how bad the ratings are the next day. I think we've all been in that situation. It's like a metaphor for Brexit right there, basically. So we've got an illustrious panel this morning. We got the wonderful Sheila Ferguson, who appeared on our screens in The Real Marigold Hotel and Marigold on Tour, not to mention having just a tiny, wee, stellar career in The 3 Degrees. We got David Brindley, the BBC's head of popular Factual. David's responsible for a number of hit shows in the genre, including The Misadventures of Romesh Ranganathan, Mortimer and Whitehouse, Gone Fishing, and my absolute favourite as a political geek, Ed Ball's Travels in Trumpland.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks, Sheila.
We have the marvellous Emily Hutt, who's joint MD of Rumpus Media, who has a TV car boot full of funny factual shows in her repertoire, having exec produced Misadventures with Romesh, Joe Lycett's Got Your Back, and Joel and Vish versus the World. And finally, we have Kate Teckham, who's head of Factual Entertainment and Development and Factual Entertainment Commissioner at ITV, whose hits include The Real Full Monty, Harry's Heroes, The Full English, Gone to Pot, The Best Little Prison in Britain. In other words, football, stripping, spliffs, jail. Sounds like the kind of party Prince Andrew would turn up for, let's be absolutely honest.
We'd film it.
And I'm Ayesha Hazarika. I used to be a Labour special advisor. I worked for Gordon Brown, Ed Miliband, Harriet Harman. I'm sure you'll agree that was all a massive success story. Went really, really well. So I'm now a stand-up comedian and a journalist. And I work for George Osborne in the Evening Standard. So life comes at you fast, people. Always remember that. So we've got this app, as you all know. So during the session, if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask, pop them through and we'll try and get through them at the end. Right, we're going to get cracking. Now, David, I'm going to start with you now. As a stand-up, I get that being funny is normally about the performance. It's all about being in the moment, in the room. But how does that apply to these shows? Because these are documentaries and they're not sort of real-life performances.
Yeah, I think there's probably two different types of shows that I work on or commission in the department at least. One of those are the sort of more documentary style, and the others are the much more constructed competitions. And I think we'll probably come to talk about the documentary stuff a tiny bit later. But in terms of those overtly constructed competitions, I think having a comedic performance at the heart of those shows is really, really important. You know, often we aren't just putting a inverted commas presenter into the middle of those shows. It's someone who's properly got, you know, funny bones. So that's whether that's Claudia on Sewing Bee, Mel and Sue, who are on Bake Off, or Noel now on Bake Off. You know, they drive the show, and being funny isn't easy. It takes someone incredibly smart.
I know.
And have someone with real energy. And, you know, just having, when we put Joe Lycett into Sewing Bee and going down and just seeing him operate, as you know, just the energy and the performance that goes into keeping, you know, the shoot day going, and you really feel that then in the show itself. And so having a comedic performance at the heart of a fact and construct, at least in terms of those competitions, is something that's really important.
And I think we've got a wee clip, actually, a little compilation clip of Joe to show.
Yeah, so this is something that was put on BBC Social, which was just a cut down of Joe's funniest moments, but it should give you a laugh in the morning. It's essentially a stand-up routine in the middle of a fact-dent format, and you're coming for that as much as, you know, as the competition.
And that
itself.
so brings the show to life. Now, Sheila, you're obviously no stranger to performing. And what was it like being cast in a show like Marigold? Did you feel that you were there as a performer, or were you there just to be yourself?
I didn't have a clue what I was there for. It was
a bit like today.
Yeah, exactly like today. But it became clear very quickly that they put all these people together to see how they would meld together and get along. Because the first stint you do is 5 weeks in India. Lord, you better like each other. Okay, because 5 weeks together is always difficult for people to get used to each other's habits and ways and when to leave each other alone, and
Yeah.
So basically, I didn't know. I don't think they knew what to expect. I think they were just kind of melding, letting the show organically grow, and then they started scripting it.
And I think we've got a little clip of you. I think you're selecting an outfit for an occasion.
Was it a green thing I hated?
Well, let's have a look
Okay.
and see. Let's have a look and see.
Okay.
Oh, fantastic.
Ta-da!
Now, I've got to ask, how did the date go?
Well, I haven't seen him since.
It's like it's morphing into first dates. And when you were filming the show, did the producers at the beginning of the day tell you what they wanted and what you were going to film? Or was it all quite a surprise?
No, I'm sitting at this do, and this guy comes over and says, would you like to spend the rest of your life with an Indian guy? I said, well, could we have dinner first? So,
To be fair, that sounds like my mum.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And then
I went shopping for a dress, and I bought this sucker, and I thought the panel had splits, so you could see leg. And I put the sucker on, and it was all one piece. I'm like, I look like my mother, So I wasn't happy with the dress, but I thought it looked elegant for the occasion and for the culture.
Okay, well, you looked fabulous. You really did.
I look like a dog.
Kate, we want to talk about how, difficult... I mean, these shows obviously look effortless, but there's so much work that goes into them. And how hard are they to get right with the risk-taking and stuff that can go wrong? Like, you've made a lot of shows, like Gone to Pot. Did you feel that was, a big risk for you guys?
It's a massive risk. We sent 5... We were all excited. We've done The Real from Monty, and we got all these lots of famous people to strip off, and it had gone really, really well. And so with that, we were really excited. We thought, what can we do next? How can we push this further and take more risks? So the sort of big part of the conversation, national conversation at the time, and international conversation, was the legalisation of cannabis. So we thought, wouldn't it be fun? And not without a slight nod to Marigold, wouldn't it be fun of getting 5 older national treasures, all who had...
Or high.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that for medicinal reasons. All that have physical ailments to go into Trump's America and to to try marijuana and cannabis and see if it can help them.
It sounds a bit like the Tory party leadership contest, to be honest.
So it was, and it all seemed like a really good, and actually it's one of my favourite things I've ever done, and it seemed like a really good idea, and the difficulties were so immense, and the risk was so high, that I don't think it really, and the cast was so brilliant and so up for it. So we get them in, and they start off in San Francisco, and they go off and they start. We thought, I wonder if they'll do it, because we couldn't say they couldn't.
Can't make them.
Of course not.
Can't make them.
So we thought, I wonder if they'll do it. Well, within a day, 2 days, we had. I'd use a statement. We had. Pat Butcher was smoking a bong. We had everyone apart from John Fashanu had taken it, and then I get the call, which is that. Christopher Biggins and Bobby George, the 60s and 70s, each of them, had a whitey after overindulging in a 90-year-old's cannabis ice cream. And they had to be carried off, and we just have to wait and see how they got on.
Oh, that is genius. Biggins ODing, on cannabis.
It's one of my favourite moments
That's the TV
ever.
we're here for.
But at that point, you think, cool, that was a bit of a risk. But I think when we see it, we don't see any of that as a misadventure. Maybe the misadventure was for an ITV audience to push quite so far as to slightly go marigold on drugs.
Yeah.
And but and maybe that's what we've done. And it laid the groundwork for us to think. After that, a lot of things came out of that show.
Yeah, no, I mean...
And a lot of road trips came out of the show. But a lot of things came out of that
well,
show.
I just... The
didn't kill Trump,
Biggins
though.
is just...
Well, we didn't kill Trump, and luckily we didn't kill Biggins or Bobby George.
Trump doesn't need to be smoking anything, let's be absolutely honest. So, Emily, look, with these shows, how does it work? When you're kind of conceptualising it, are you thinking that these shows can just be funny in themselves, or do they need a purpose right from the beginning? Do you need a kind of an arc to sort of make them work?
With all of the shows that we make, we think about what the factual version of the show is first. So what would the straight execution be of it? And then you add the layers to it. Because if you don't have the structure underneath it, it will just fall apart, and the viewers will know that it feels indulgent if it's just comedy for comedy's sake. But what's interesting is that you can bring comedy to so many different factual genres. So you can do it with current affairs, you can do it with consumer affairs, you can do it with documentary, you can do it with an authored documentary. And layering those shows in that way is what's sort of fun. You sort of think, what's the straight version? How can we subvert it or put a twist on it? Or what's the talent that can bring something completely fresh to that area?
And you've done, so you're very much the factual as the basis and the funny is the sort of icing on the cake. And you've done a lot of work with Romesh, haven't you? You've really developed him as a kind of an author, sort of presenter.
Yeah, so we met him. We came to see him for the first time in Edinburgh 5 years ago in a sweaty shipping container. And at that time, we were like, we were a small company. We were like, who is on the cusp of getting their own show? Who will have a meeting with us? And who can we then pitch? And we saw him, and he was very broad in his stand-up, and he was very smart, and he just had that self-deprecating humour. So we developed that show together. And it started out as a much more funny proposition because his thing is like, I need to be funny. I'm a comedian, so if there's no gags in it, my career's over. So we worked with him and developed the first project with him. And then since then, over the last 5 years, as we've all got more confident, we've been able to go to more serious and factual places with him. And, we've talked about genocide in our show, so there are things that we never thought 5 years ago we'd ever be talking about.
And you did a really interesting one when you went to Zimbabwe. I think we've got a clip. Do you want to just sort of talk us through that?
Yeah, so when we went to Zimbabwe, he was accompanied by a local teacher who's a brilliant character. And lots of the journey they went on was about the legacy of colonialism. And so this is a scene in a old men's club, very traditional colonial white men's club in Bulawayo, where they're discussing it.
It's a great, Sheila and I were just, it's amazing how something like that you can get such a powerful point across with somebody who clearly has a light touch as well, and it works really well. Now, David, for you, when you're, plotting out your kind of idea for a show, what comes first for you? Is it the talent or is it the factual thesis?
I think it's probably a mix of the two, but you definitely need the purpose. But I think, we're really keen, and you guys obviously do it with Romesh, but equally when we're working with Ed or we're working with, Paul and Bob, to sit down and talk to them, to find out what they're genuinely interested in, what point of view they have, and what they want to say about the world. So
they're naturally, authentically enthusiastic about it.
Exactly. Otherwise it's a construct and no one believes in it from the very start. And so, but the purpose is really, really important. Sort of funny works, I think, when it's married with purpose and with heart. And like you were saying, you can then get into some really, really difficult issues that, frankly, 2 million people wouldn't be tuning in for in another type of programme.
And it's often a good vehicle as well for tackling quite difficult issues, even morbid issues.
Yeah, well, we make a show called Mortimer and Whitehouse Gone Fishing, and that is essentially a show about two men who are facing their own mortality because they've got serious heart complaints, and they're talking about their life. They're reflecting on their life, and they're looking towards the future, which isn't always as bright as you might think it is. However, they're two of the funniest men I've sort of had the pleasure of sitting down and meeting. And in fact, the first meeting that we had with them when they were talking about it was just an hour of just laughing, but talking about really serious, difficult issues. And so I think that's what's made that show.
That idea,
so they came to us. So they came to us and said, we genuinely have both been through this issue. Paul was really concerned that Bob was becoming reclusive, and so he invited him fishing. And so it was something that they were already doing. They'd been on a few trips when they came to us and said, we've been fishing. It's quite good fun. We talk about nothing a lot, and we think you should make a television program about it. And so we did. And there's they complete the range of what they can talk about. From absolutely nothing to something incredibly heartfelt is really appealing.
And I think we've got a wee clip now, haven't we, of something in hospital?
Yes, so this is a clip coming up from this week's episode, actually, that's not been out yet. And this is when, it's completely unscripted as well. So this is, Paul has just let Bob know that he understands that Las Vegas has the highest proportion of defibrillators to humans in the world. It's real, it's real, it's authentic, and I don't think you see men of that age talking about, friendship and mortality, frankly, on telly that much. So that's
and also, you couldn't script something like that. Just that it's so kind of, you can tell that's so in the moment,
yes.
And it's really wonderful. Now, Sheila, we're talking about purpose. When you were filming Marigold, were you guys thinking about purpose, or was it more about the personalities?
I think it was about the personalities that they put together. We didn't know the purpose because I think we're coming to that later about how they would get the spontaneity out of us with the cameras in our faces all the time. And but no. I think with regard to what you were saying about humor, the funnier people were and more clever with comments and conversation, the better the show was received. So you do need that integration with the architecture, the cultural things, the religious. I mean, India is nothing but festival after festival after Buddha. I mean, how those people live like that is incredible to me because they really, really believe it. It's not put on for tourists.
No.
And
that's why we moved to Scotland. we're like, we're just done with all of that nice stuff. We're moving to Scotland.
Absolutely.
We've got to live. Now, Kate, with a lot of the stuff you do with ITV, Factual Entertainment, there's a lot of references to films on the big screen, like the full Monty or big sporting events in Harry's Heroes. So what are you looking for in ITV does it have to have a pivot to something sort of big and meta like that?
No, it has to be a big idea, and it has to have a purpose. So if anyone comes to us, we'll always say why and why now. Having something massively cultural that you can link to is obviously a bonus because it gives you the vision. When someone comes in, you've got the vision of, they say, oh, we're going to have celebrities strip naked for, and then we add on the layers of what would they do that for? They'll do that for
money.
To raise awareness. No, to raise awareness.
Money.
To raise awareness. And you think, oh, yeah, with the football, when people come in, we often say, what is the part 4, the part 6? What is the finale? Because we're ITV, we're sort of show business.
Yeah.
We want a big show at the end.
And you're building up to
but
that.
Beyond all of that, there has to be a purpose. So there had to be, Full Monty had to be about something because otherwise you can't engage with it. And with Harry's Heroes...
Yeah, tell us a bit about that.
Well, Harry's Heroes was probably the best pitch ever that's walked in, ever. So they came in and they had a little pair of shorts and they had a big pair of shorts and they said, this is John Barnes' shorts in 1990. And then they had this big pair and said, and this is John Barnes now. And we're going to get them back into those shorts and we're going to get a team together and they're going to play one last big match. Oh. And it was like, you're just there, wasn't it? It's like, it's fairy tale. It's something we all know what a big sporting occasion looks like. So it has, for us, we know that it can resonate with the viewers. And it's like, and more than that, it's like, bet you fucking can't. And they did. And so we sent them off and said, go on, get us a team of ex-England internationals that we know who they are, that might be a bit podgy. Bring them back, get a match, and get a German team as well, and you're in. And they did. And so it was sort of like sent them off thinking, you're never, ever going to pull this off. And that's the most exciting thing. Someone comes in with an idea that you think, they're never going to pull it off. And it was Laura and Charlie and Kerry, and they did it. It was amazing.
And I think we've got to a clip coming up. Do you want to talk to us about Harry on the beach?
Yeah, so this is basically the team have got together. This is part of the second show, and they're still really useless at losing weight, apart from Matt Letizia, who's really, really good at it. And so they've got the matches coming up, and they still don't know. It's a grudge match against the Germans and their old foes and rivals. And so Harry has organised with John. They're taking them to Spain for a intensive 3-day camp, because certain people like Ruddock and Fowler are just not really pulling their weight. But anyway, there's an anecdote about it afterwards, but I'll show the clip.
Yeah. So, Emily, as a producer, how do you, because obviously the talent is critical to all of this stuff, and how do you go about casting the talent and finding the talent?
I think it's interesting. We always try and get our hands on the talent during the development before we pitch, because you can't just, as David was saying, you've got to work out what do they care about. Are they smart enough? Are they funny about? Are they spontaneous in the moment? Because they're not scripted, these shows, so they need to have a point of view. And also, you can't just be really passionate about one subject, because you might get 1 or 2 hours of doc out of it, but you want to find someone that you can put in lots of different situations and get lots of content out of. So I think it's about finding those people that are broad. And when you go and watch stand-up shows and you're looking particularly at stand-up comedians, it's like, who are their audience? And then when you look at their audience, you think, well, who's going to watch them on TV? Where would they sit in the schedule? Sometimes we find that there is a sort of gap in between BBC Three and E4 and then the grown-up channels, where people kind of get a little bit lost. Yeah. So I think it is key that there are brilliant people out there who just don't quite fit on the landscape at the moment. So before you spend a lot of time developing and working out exactly what you can do with those people, it's worth thinking, well, would David like him? Could he sit on BBC Two? Would Kate like him?
Probably.
Where would you take them? Where would you take them?
And it must be very satisfying to see the development that you do, like when you start with somebody like Romesh, and then you work with them, so you move them away from this kind of sort of newbie into from the stand-up stuff to be able to tackle these big issues. And I think we've got a little clip, a really interesting wee clip.
Yeah, so we dug out the first taster that we made for Asian Factual, which was 5 years ago. And it shows, compared to the clip of him in Zimbabwe, it just shows how over time his confidence is built to go, don't just have to be funny, we can do some serious stuff and it's okay. But yeah, this is from the taste.
So we saw the after, this is the before.
So this is the before.
Yeah.
So this was when we first met him, and we hadn't met his mum until we went round to his house and we were doing some stuff at home, and obviously she was amazing. But the motivation and the purpose for the very first series of Asian Factual on BBC Three came out of this taster.
I mean, you've obviously had huge success with Romesh, but can you give us a sense of sometimes when stuff has gone wrong with talent? That hasn't sort of worked out quite so well.
Well, we've made tasters that have not been commissioned, quite a lot of them, and sometimes the fit isn't right with the talent, and those people have gone on to make really good, successful shows with other companies, with other broadcasters. And it is about the chemistry of the team that you put together as well, because I think when you're in this space, you want to, if you're doing something like the Joe Lycett series we make for Channel 4, we've got a really strong consumer journalism team, and then we marry it with the Comedy Ent team. And it's the same thing on the Misadventures series. We have a showrunner who's from a factual background, and we have a comedy director. And if the chemistry's right, then it will work. And sometimes it isn't right and it doesn't work. And that's okay. And you just go, you know what? It's not going to work for everybody. Those people don't, it's just not quite right. And that's all right, but making the tasters really helps, because it helps you really bottom out what the motivation is and the purpose of the tape as well.
And just seeing if there's that, does it spark joy?
Does it spark joy?
Oh. Now, Kate, obviously, casting talent is a huge part of what you're looking for as well. Would you have spotted Romesh? Would you have picked him up fairly on?
Would I supposed to Romesh? I'd hope so. But I wouldn't. I don't know if I'd be offered Romesh.
And what kind of talent are you specific? What is ITV looking for?
The thing is that with ITV, we tend to go for, if it was someone presenting something, it would be more likely to be established talent. So in that way, that would be more unlikely because we go for the name, for the billing. However, in a lot of the Fact 10 stuff we do, we tend to look for, especially if it's an ensemble, a chemistry between them, or in a relationship between them. So, for example, obviously Harry's Heroes, it was the team in Gordon, Gino and Fred. It's a relationship through cooking and through, three very big and different egos. Obviously, they're quite stellar names, and so it's not so much would we spot them, it's how we use new and emerging talent, which we want to, but ITV has a certain different remit and a certain different audience.
And I think we've actually got a clip of Gordon, Gino and Fred coming up now.
Yes, so this was sort of an ultimate chemistry show where you put together, and I think we've all done, you put together different people, some bigger names than others, and the hope is that it works. That it works,
yeah.
exactly.
Magic.
And it really works.
Yeah.
And that's the hope. And it's sort of everything that you had in your the vision comes true and the characters work. And
Let's have a wee look at the magic. Now, David, I have to talk to you about Ed Balls. So here we have this guy who is a huge political bruiser, was one of the most serious men in politics. He's on track to be Chancellor of the Exchequer. He's talking about reducing the structural deficit. The next thing we know, he's doing Gangnam Style on Strictly Come Dancing. And I think more people probably voted for him than voted for the Labour Party at the last set of local elections. But there we go. And so, what did you see in him? Like, what takes you to look at this guy who's a very serious political figure, and you're like, yeah, I can turn him into talent?
Well, he's got that really interesting marriage of complete expertise and also being game for a laugh. And the very act of him going on Strictly, I think, made us sit up and think that we could move him into a factual space. He'd have, the absolute grounding to sort of run a thesis through his programme, but at the same time bring an entertainment, sensibility to it. So we sent him off to America for a series called Travels in Trumpland, and he's absolutely the right person to go there at that time and look at the economy in the States. But also we knew from him doing Gangnam Style that he'll be up for having fun. So we pushed him right to the edge. And one of the scenes from the first series was he went to explore the parallels between Trump's language and that used in the wrestling world in America, and he then became a wrestler dressed in a leotard with the Union Jack on the front, and he's really doing it. He really means it, and he's really up for it. And he FaceTimed Yvette Cooper, his wife, MP, and she just said, "Ed, we spoke about you crossing lines. This is a line, and you've crossed it." And that's really real, and their relationship was really real. And so you're allowed to have fun because you know that he's very serious in terms of what he's exploring, and he is the right person to explore that for a BBC Two audience. So we've also sent him now off to explore the issues in Europe, which is a series coming up in the autumn, and again, very serious issues, but he's willing to have fun, and so you get scenes that you wouldn't get from anyone else. So I think we've got a clip where he's met a woman called Valeria in Italy, who is an Instagram star and a fashionista. She invites him for some laser treatment on his body, and he thinks that that's a good time to talk about the politics of the Deputy Prime Minister, Matteo Salvini. So we've got a little clip there.
I just
Sorry,
say,
you've probably
it
seen
used
too
to
much.
be my boss at work. I'm just like, I can't believe I've seen somebody massaging Ed Ball's bum cheeks. Like, this is really, really disturbing.
It's not an interview you get with David Dimbleby, but But also it just speaks to that wider point, I think, and it's really interesting to think about repurposing talent, taking those people that you knew for one thing, being a political bruiser in Downing Street, to that. So I think it's really worth thinking about the people that we know of and that are in public conversation, and thinking about where we can transpose them to, and there's inherent humour in that, I think.
But he takes it so seriously as well. Like, he absolutely loves it. I was at a party with him a few weeks ago, and he was just telling about all this exciting stuff he's doing and how he's really learning his craft, and he's like learning how to be a presenter. And he was then giving me tips about stand-up and I was thinking, this is so weird. And then suddenly Ed Miliband sort of came along and was like, hi, don't forget about me, guys. It's just like, he's like, I've got a podcast. It's like, oh my God, like, these guys are going to be running the government at one point. It's so brilliant and surreal. But, and Sheila, in terms of when you were with the Marigold cast, because obviously we're talking about sort of the chemistry, and we saw that very much with that clip. What was the chemistry like with you guys? Like, did it all work? Like, because when you watch the show, it looks like you're all like the best of friends. Did you all get on, or was there a couple of people that you thought, no, I just can't do that again?
Okay, let me think. Am I going to lie, or am I going to tell the truth? Okay.
Truth.
Right. Truth. Okay.
Dorothy Byrne, the primacy of truth.
What you have to learn if you're going to do a reality show like Marigold is that, and what I had to learn the hard way, is that you go in and you're told all these wonderful things on the phone about what they expect of you. By the time it goes through the processes of being edited and talked about with different producers, it comes out as something they've scripted and they feel the public will be comfortable in seeing. I talked a great deal about masturbation because I'm a single woman. They edited all of that out. To me, sorry, this is private. Well, private to us. I felt it was important because of the topic we were dealing with in Argentina. And they were talking about something, and I said, well, do you have any Benoit balls? And everybody got hysterical. I know I've gone off script. I said, Benoit balls. I said, I'm a collector. And everybody the cameraman was up and down. I said, what the hell is so funny? I said, Benoit balls were invented by the samurai soldiers in the 16th century and given to their wives before they went off to kill each other. And their wives would insert them, and sit in a rocking chair until they came to an orgasmic conclusion. And you find it funny. And so I went into all the gadgets I owned, and I'm a collector, and they edited all that out. Now,
that is a show in itself. Someone needs to commission that, right now. Is anyone in the room, please commission that.
And they thought it was hysterical, and we're at a sex class on the university, and they edit me out. I'm like, duh. So anyway, back to your point. Yeah. Once you realize you've been cast as you've been pigeonholed as a certain person.
Like a caricature.
Exactly. Yes. I'm the one who's looking for a husband. Well, I think I can go out and find one if I want one. But the thing is, that became my strand, and Argentina, Iceland, everywhere I went, I had a date. The only one I haven't seen is the Indian guy, but the others.
Okay. Yeah.
You
didn't need that rocking chair. Like, it was all good. Like, yeah.
And then one of the times they asked me in one of the million interviews, does masturbation replace men? I said, are you a French fried fool? No. It's because
you were going to say yes. I thought you were going to say yes.
No,
sorry.
No. Okay, I don't have to cook for them and hold them and stroke them and talk about their masculinity. But the point is, it's not a replacement for a man. It's something I do. It's a hobby. It's a hobby.
We all need a hobby, people. We need
and on top of that, it's safe sex.
Yeah, Charlie. And it's sex with someone you love, as Woody Allen once said.
If you don't love yourself, you can't love somebody else.
But look, I'm going to get you back to question. You should be a politician. Honestly, this one's amazing.
I'm learning.
Was there anyone that you just we just?
Okay, all right. I'm gonna tell the truth. Just because we're private here. I can get along with anybody. I don't care if you can like me or don't like me, I can deal with it. But there was one particular person that I had such an antipathy toward. I refused to do another Marigold Hotel if he was anywhere near or any press around it. And I don't ever want to see this person again. Unfortunately, this person's son is now Prime Minister of your country. So that's all I'm going to say. There are times when you have had enough of being Trump and Putin in your breakfast cornflakes. All right? So, and he's a very difficult man to get along with. And I can find something to discuss with anybody. Well, masturbation for one thing, you know. But
His son is a wanker, to be fair, so like, you know. We can edit that out later, it's fine.
Okay, but I mean, other than that, I mean, if you have a disagreement with people, that's normal. You go to your room, you don't speak for a day or two. You can find, I play solitaire on my computer, I play chess, I play Scrabble. I have things to do within me to
You're
go
a busy
with myself.
woman. You've got
I
hobbies.
am.
Like you're a busy.
Absolutely.
You've got shit to do. You have stuff
Absolutely,
to do.
don't
like
mess with me. Yeah.
Did you find that it was that you didn't get on because of your sort of politics or world outview, or was it like a clash of personalities?
No. You can have different opinions, and I've seen you on talk.
Yeah.
And I know how you deal, honey. You good. But you can have different opinions. That's no problem. That's great. You talk about it or don't. But you don't throw it in somebody's face. If I specifically say to you, I do not want to have this discussion, and you keep bringing it up, you're in trouble. All right? And Miriam Margolis felt the same way. But because she's cast as the political English person, all of my opinions as the American person were cut out, and I was doesn't she look good for her age? So that was my pigeonhole.
Right.
And I had to keep doing sit-ups and push-ups and, you know, being all that.
Talking about, this is very appropriate next, what do you do when things go off plan in terms and go off script? So when you're...
I'll shut up.
when you've got your best laid plans, like when you're putting this stuff together, do you have a very firm like trajectory, or do you have to just factor in that things can just go anywhere?
It totally depends on the project. The reality is there's a lot of planning, but almost always in any project, you know you've hit gold when it goes off plan, genuinely.
I think we can agree that's just happened today.
But the greatest moments are always what you didn't plan for. So you plan for situations because you're dealing with real people, and a lot of the fact entries you're dealing with real people, and they're not presenting. There's differences. There's a performance style, and there's being yourself and reacting, and it's best in all of them when something doesn't go to plan. But because it doesn't go to the plan and the plan, it almost inevitably, not always, ends up, and it depends how it goes off. If it goes off plan because something amazing's happened, then that can be just that's incredible.
That's that spontaneous moment.
It's gold. I mean, obviously, if it goes off plan, if everything turns to shit and the cameras don't work, that's bad. But
and I think we've got another clip actually from Harry's Heroes. I think this is involving fishing.
Yes, well, this is obviously fishing is a good thing because you get.
We like fishing.
Fishing.
We're
Yeah.
really into. We're into masturbating. We're into fishing. And
one time we might pull them all together.
Yeah, exactly. There's a horrible fish. There's
there
a
are some
fishing gag
fish
there,
that
but
do
I'm
each
not
other
going to go
and
there.
do themselves.
And this is sort of when we were doing Harry's Heroes, a lot of things that weren't planned happened, and sort of one of them, there was a big storyline in it, which was Paul Merson's gambling addiction, and so in a way because the story started and then in the next show it became sort of quite explosive and an amazing moment that was completely unplanned. But this was sort of how when we were making it, started to deal with an evolving story that couldn't just be a locker room, so it had to be dealt with in a more sensitive way. And so this is the tip.
And Emily, do you agree with that? I mean, when you're working with talent like Romesh, who are sort of stand-ups, I mean, you obviously have a sense of the bones, but do you have to leave space for them to, do their own kind of gag writing in the moment or all that kind of thing?
None of the people we work with actually write anything for the shows we make. So there's no sort of like something happens on the ground, you're like, get a notebook out and I'll react to this moment when, goat's falling off a truck or whatever, because you don't know what's going to happen. If they're smart and they're really quick, it will just come. And then, you produce the scenes, and as they develop, you just follow where they go, and then you do your post-match interview, and then you can bring out all the things, and that's an opportunity for them to have a little think about what they're going to say a bit more. But in the moment, everything is unscripted.
And that's where that raw talent is. I mean, you must have had that in Speed with, Paul and Bob.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it earlier, didn't we? But you need to rely on the talent. The talent has to be extraordinary if you're going to be brave enough to say, let's step back and let's just see what happens, because you're totally dependent on the people on screen, but also off screen. You touched on it earlier, but having the right team to make these shows is
the production talent.
The production talent is incredibly important.
And is it like, from a producer point of view and from the infrastructure doing it, you plan so much. Does it feel like does the control freak in you slightly freak out when you're like, I now have to just give this over to the talent? It's sort of down to them.
I mean, from a commissioning point of view, making Gone Fishing it sort of doesn't feel like it, but it was a really scary leap, because we did say, let's go and make a show about nothing where we don't know what's going to happen. Let's go and film two men fishing in a river, and we'll make 6 episodes of it, please. And so you absolutely, then hand that stress over to the production team to make something really special. But unless you take those risks, you don't, and they don't always work. But when they do, you get something really special, I think.
Yeah, I think that when you're in those situations, you can set it up as much as possible and think, that might be funny. They might react in this kind of way in that situation. But like Kate's saying, it's when things go completely wrong, and then you get text messages all in caps, going, why aren't you here? This has happened. We've fallen off a truck. There's a sandstorm. And you're like, oh, it's going to be really good. But I won't say that now. I'll just say, I'm really sorry. I'll talk to your agent. It'll be fine.
And are you filming?
yeah. Did you get it?
Did you catch that?
Yeah.
And so having, how important is it to have you've got the on-screen talent, but what about the production talent as well?
Yeah, it is. It's important. I think it's that chemistry of who has really complementary skills. So who's the kind of factual person who's going to go, yeah, that was really funny, but we haven't actually talked about anything important here, and like punching through the sort of themes and the issues of whatever the show's about. And they can drive it on the ground. And they can drive it. And sometimes we've gone for a comedy producer and a more factual, more doc director. And other times we've done the opposite. With Ramesh, we've got a comedy director who just adds like stupid visual gags. He's excellent. But the mix is quite important. And it's actually also about who you make it for. Because sometimes we'll make shows that you could pitch to an entertainment commissioner, but we'll take them to a factual commissioner, and that adds something into it in a way that you might normally not make a show, because they'll be saying, well, I need this. Yeah. And then that is something fresh that you wouldn't have thought of.
It's like a sort of a twist on something.
Well, they are hybrids, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, so you need both in the team and in the talent to be confident that you are making something new, that it's stepping into a slightly different genre. And I've always said it to Paul and Bob, I would never ever dare to tell them what I think is funny or not, because they're two of Britain's funniest comedians. But I will say, actually, that beat of the factual story is more important than you think it is.
Yeah, right.
And put it in and slow it down, and have confidence in the fact that you guys just talking about friendship is important and funny, and it's about a balance. And so and that runs right through to who you grew up and who's making the show as well, having someone.
And just I think what would be very interesting to people in the room here as well is how with with your obviously your commissioning sort of hats on, what is the key? What's the magic in terms of when people are coming to pitch? What are you looking for? What makes
genuine? If we're talking about funny factual, it's make us laugh in the pitch. If you can make you laugh, it's make you laugh in the pitch and see what is going to be funny, and have the vision and the passion. For us, it is about big ideas. It is about risk as well. Sometimes it's about big names, and sometimes it's just the bigness of the idea, or just the tone and the wit. But it's the single biggest thing is when you pitch something that is going to be funny factual, then make us laugh. We often say just bring a poster, bring a picture, and in that picture you tell the whole story. And often we ask for a picture and a title, and that's it. If it's not there in that one image, you don't know if it's going to. It's not. It's like through a stick of rock. It's got to be there in the embryonic state.
And you've got to.
It's got to be in the DNA of the idea, and the people making it, and the people in it. Or who is going to be in it that makes that witty. Not that they necessarily have to be witty. So it's that. It's part of from the very beginning of the process. It has to be there.
Are they nervous? Sorry, I was going to say, are they nervous when they pitch? I would be petrified to pitch for you.
Well, no, they love it. They love it.
Of course they're nervous. They're pitching
Well,
to
yeah.
the doyen.
It's like
That's me. No, but that's why if you prepare with something like you've got a picture, you know it's funny. It's made everyone in the office laugh. You've got a line, you've got a title, it's got a... Then you're sort of slightly armed with something that is disarming to us. And we're not there genuinely to block ideas. We want really good ideas and we'll work with people and if there's something there, we'll work it up and we'll get excited and we will, like with Dave, all of us, we move things along and, hopefully to a better place sometimes. But if it comes in and there's a germ of something, then
And David, what is that? Is that the same for you? What are you looking for? What are you not looking for?
I think for us it's about story as well. So you were saying at the top, Emily, sort of what's the factual layer first, and then how can we make that funny? But we need to have the factual layer to begin with in terms of the the story that you want to tell and the point of view of the talent. So that's probably the most important thing for us, and then it becomes funny. It's sort of not enough that it's just it often doesn't work for us. I think when people come in and say this is going to be a funny show, it's much better to say this is going to be a show about X, and by the way, it's going to be very funny. So I think for us, it's about story first, I would say.
And Emily, what advice would you give to companies planning on a pitch, funny factual?
Well, Kate's just said it, hasn't she? But I think you just really think about well, it's all the normal questions, but it's also why that particular talent on that topic. What do they bring to it that makes it fresh and funny? And make the taster or whatever it is feel refreshing and new. And even if it could be a territory quite well, this new person comes in and just explodes it and changes everything. And you can envision it straight away. And if you envision it as you're selling it, then hopefully you can get that across.
That's especially for us. It's dialing the story. It's changing. It is the reinvention of mainstream ideas into new places. Exactly.
Now, I'm just conscious of time, and we've actually just had a question through on the app. So I'm going to just quickly, and then we're going to have to close up because the time has just flown by because it's been so good. So this is, I suppose, to all of you really. If you could cast any comedian in a factual show other than me, who would it be? I mean, that's just a given. I'm going to have like 5 shows after this.
Alive or dead?
Kate.
Oh, any comedian that I could. I'm trying to think. Jesus,
God, great question.
No, it's a really good question.
Emily,
it's like ordering a meal. You start down there and I'll
Wilson.
work out when I'm going to have the
Rebel
meal.
Wilson.
Oh, Rebel Wilson,
Yeah.
great choice. Yes. What would you like to see her do?
Anything.
Anything. She's just. She could read out a telephone book, and she's
Yeah.
just hilarious.
We've actually just commissioned the person that I really wanted
What,
to do.
Rebel
which was-
Wilson?
No,
No.
not Rebel Wilson, which is Sarah Pascoe. So she's doing
Oh,
a series
fab.
for us for BBC Two about dying trades around the world, and she was the person that I wanted to make
Oh,
something with. So,
fantastic.
yes.
Sheila, anyone you would like
Chris
to?
Rock.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good. Very good choice.
Well, I was going to say, because I say it to everyone that walks in the room, I suppose the person we would love to cast we'd love to, is Michael McIntyre.
Oh.
I like him.
Yeah.
Good.
Get off him.
Brilliant. Yeah.
I know. I'll probably out for that, but there's not a person that doesn't. He was, what if Michael McIntyre? No, he won't do it. But it's
Excellent. Well, listen, a huge thank you to the panel, Sheila, Kate, Emily, David, for being so fantastic and so honest and so candid. It was absolutely brilliant. And thank you all for coming today. You've been such a lovely audience, and we really appreciate you turning up with a nice hangover. It's been lovely. So enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.